Hey. Hello, everyone. I am Pastor Megan Rohr. I'm at Grace Lutheran in San Francisco and with Transitional Wisdom. And I have with me...
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm in Norway, in Oslo.
And how would you describe yourself, Alex? I am a trans person, and I use they and them pronouns, but folk who know how to have conversations without using pronouns always make me happy as well. So, how do you define yourself?
I'm also a transgender person, non-binary. I use he, they, or them. Try to help the people that aren't good with pronouns to just use he. Especially in Norway, where we don't have they as a singular pronoun.
You're going to have to invent a word, right?
Yeah, we have, but I don't like it, so I use they, them.
Okay, I won't have you.
Controversial.
I like your shirt.
It says trans activists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you are also, let's see if you self-identify this way, but you're also a churchy person.
I am a churchy person.
Right? Yeah. How do you define yourself in terms of faith?
I just define myself as an everyday Christian, Lutheran, and I'm probably a bit more than an everyday Christian, as we say in Norway, but since I'm going to be a pastor, yeah.
Yeah, well, and do you still work for the bishop? Or did you used to be an assistant to the bishop, right?
No, I used to be assistant in the church, in the big cathedral.
Got it.
But now I work in another church in Oslo, because the cathedral isn't in Oslo. Yeah.
Very good. And can you explain how the church in Norway operates? Is it so in the United States, we have lots of different Lutheran churches, and over time they merge together. And so there's affiliations of Lutheran churches. What is it like in Norway?
So in Norway, we have one, the biggest church, that's called the Church of Norway, which is Lutheran. That's the church I'm part of, and that used to be up until recently a state church, which means that it's a part of the state, basically. Mm-hmm. It's the main religion and main direction of religion in Norway, but we also have a lot of other beliefs and other church societies, but they are pretty small compared to the Church of Norway. So some are Lutheran, some of the other, yeah.
So being a part of the Lutheran faith would that be a part of the majority?
Yes, we're definitely a majority church.
And how, being a trans person, not a part of the majority, I'm assuming.
Yeah, correct.
Not yet.
No.
So how is transness received in the Church of Norway? And you don't have to speak for everybody, but
I think it's a bit divided. Depending on where you are in the country, the southern parts of the US isn't that great, I expect. Just guessing. And it's not necessarily too great. It doesn't always go well around the west coast and southern coast of Norway, and probably some places all the way up north. But I think it's more okay than a lot of other places. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the church don't really talk about transgender people. They talk about LGBTQ, but only as a whole, and only about sexuality. So, and we don't have any openly transgender pastors in our church.
So the funny thing to me about that is that, so I met you when I came to Trondheim for the St. Olaf Festival. And I was there to speak from my transness about how the church had injured trans people. That's a long way to bring a trans person. The setup of the talk that I was a part of was that the national church's bishop, the presiding bishop, then was supposed to respond to what I said and what some of the other panelists said, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I got a clipping from the newspaper. Where in the newspaper, it identified me as a bishop.
Yeah.
It said that I had been a transgender bishop who had come to do this presentation. And at first I was like really weirded out by that, because I was like, no, like I haven't earned that title. Like I didn't want people to think I had like misrepresented myself. But then as I was flying back to the United States, I thought, how cool is that? The people in Norway think there's a transgender bishop.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Exists in the world, right? And so I left feeling like, even if everything I had said was dumb, that just that misprint would have been like a gift to the church in Norway. And so I don't know. Did you see that clipping? What did you think about that whole process? As being a trans person who's from Norway, to have this other person who comes over.
Well, I actually think it was really great that you came over, both because I get to meet you and get to know you a bit, and also because we don't have anyone to look up to in Norway as transgender people of faith or of Christian faith. So it was really a nice moment for me to, and I'm guessing others, hopefully, to know that someone was here and talked on our behalf, or like well, and so the journey that I went through after that, just because if you're going to share, I might as well share too, is that I started doing some internal work with myself, because I thought, oh my gosh, I couldn't ever be a bishop, right? But it was in this paper, and it made me have all these feelings of like, well, why don't I feel like a trans person could be a bishop? And if I'm a trans person who's like so supportive of other trans people, why couldn't I ever like believe that that is a thing that is true? And so actually the synod that I'm in right now is in the process of calling a bishop. And so when they said, will you put your name forward with a bunch of other people? I said, well, I guess I have to, right? Because who else is gonna do it? It is a job I think I would be good at, but it was my own internal sense of what a trans person could achieve in the church that was this artificial limit that I had set for myself. And I thought, well, if the people of Norway believe it could happen, maybe it could happen, right? Yeah, and I do believe so. I'm actually talking about, Queer Eye, for instance, and I saw that episode you featured in, which was pretty cool. But also, I saw that there was a gay bishop also, and not even that has happened in Norway.
Oh, wow.
We had, when we were hiring a new bishop in my diocese, we had the same thing that you just said, like this one lesbian person that we wanted to put her name forward. She was like, oh, okay. But she also, like, she didn't know if the church was ready for a lesbian bishop. And since we don't have any now, the answer was obviously no. But she said that if this is where my path goes, and I'm asked to do this, then someone wants me to, and then it's a calling from God as well. So who am I to say no to try and fulfill that call?
Yeah, it's a scary leap of faith, but thank goodness that there are some of us who are willing to kind of see where that path takes. As you've been going through seminary now, where are you in your seminary journey?
I'm a third done.
Okay. And you've done that whole process openly, right? Because I think people know, yeah. Has that been revolutionary for people? Has it been, like, anytime people are doing something that's not what most people are doing, it obviously has hiccups along the road. What has it been like to be going through seminary?
It's been really interesting because, well, also when I decided where I wanted to study, I thought about going to this one city in Norway that I really like, and it's quite small, which fits my way of living a bit. But then I was like, well, that's one of the most conservative places to study. So I just threw that plan away and moved to Oslo. So I deliberately chose the place where it will be most comfortable for me to study. And it has been pretty nice. No problems. But more people that I know or meet when I say like, yeah, I'm studying to become a pastor, or yeah, I'm transgender and I studied to become a pastor. People are like, what? Both like, is it possible? And why do you want to do that? Yeah. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that?
I think it's important
Yeah.
to do it. And I think it's pretty cool to be a pastor because you can do so much good work, both as a transgender pastor in like particular, but also just being a pastor.
Yeah. Well, and I can also say, because we've had much longer conversations than this, that like you're one of the most well-read people I've met, right? Like you've got that wonderful church nerdiness that always makes my heart especially happy. So.
Oh yeah, I'm a nerd. Yeah.
In like all the best ways, like the best church outfits. Yes. You like. My favorite thing was we were hanging out at the cathedral, and I would just be like, well, what's that window about? And you knew like everything. So it was wonderful. Yeah.
Although my thought was like, did I?
Yeah, but it's good. My story, so just go with it.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I knew everything.
Well, I think that's wonderful. When you are going through a difficult time, right? Because the world's going through a difficult time with the coronavirus. The United States is going through a particularly difficult time right now with racial inequalities being a thing that we're again kind of trying to readjust so that ever-flowing stream of justice can come our way again. What are some of the things that you do to care for yourself when things get a bit topsy-turvy?
Well, right now it's been pretty hard because Corona didn't hit us just as hard as the States, but we went full lockdown when it happened. People who had to go to work, or people who had to do things, they were allowed to, but if you didn't have to, you were strictly recommended to stay at home. So I did, and all the people I live with did, and luckily I'm in well, I don't even know what you call it, but kind of a dorm, but not a dorm. But we're 8 people, flatmates, who live together. So that helped because we could take care of each other and be there for each other. Yeah, you have a little bit of
community while you're isolated.
Yeah, so many students that I study with, or I just saw them being alone. And I'm pretty happy I didn't have to be. And sometimes I was jealous because I wasn't, but most of the time I was happy that I'm not. But I usually I call a lot of friends. Even though I live with 8 people, my best way to take care of myself was call the people I love and talk with them and make them make time for me.
That's a great way to put it. I love that. It's not pestering. It's not annoying people. It's making people love you the amount of time you deserve, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Are there any books you're delighting in right now, or are you because you just finished up your school papers not too long ago?
Yeah. I actually just started reading a book about it's a funny like wordplay on Norwegian, but in English it would be Message Carrier. Which is a book about being the person that have to respond and tell someone that their next of kin or someone they're close has died. So it's not a part of my curriculum, but it's kind of helpful to read before I'm going out doing priest work.
That's the real stuff. That's how you know someone who's like deeply, deeply called, even when no one's looking and no one's testing them. They're still like trying to be the best they can for people in vulnerable moments.
Yeah, and I'm also going to be taking some a month of work as a pastor this summer, so I wanted
Nice.
to read some of that before I have to bury someone.
Yeah. What is church worship like right now in Norway? Is it online? Is it limited numbers?
Yeah, we actually just opened for limited numbers. So from the end of May and until now, we had 50 people. If the room was big enough to have 50 people and 3 feet, I think 1 meter in the metric system, but 3 feet apart. So, and now just this Monday, we opened to 200 people. So
Wow.
but almost no church is big enough to have that many people. And let's be honest, probably there wouldn't come 200 people.
Yeah. That's some things are true in Lutheran churches all over the world, and it's that they're not packed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, are you allowed to sing and do communion?
Yes.
Oh wow, that's hopeful. We can't sing yet.
Oh,
I know.
that's sad. That's the best part.
I know.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we are really strict about how we do things. So we always have like this hand sanitizers, and we, as the people helping with the communion, we are like up in the air with the hands, showing everyone that we're really careful. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. How are you taking care of your faith during this time?
Well, yeah, I don't really know. I've always been pretty strong-faithful, so I've never actually. I'd actually talked with the bishop about this yesterday. I've never doubted my faith, which is pretty rare. Most people who doubt sometimes, and I probably will in the future. So right now I've just been doing whatever, and being able to go to church. I've been able most of the time, but since I'm working in the church and we have had funerals, I've been able to work in the funerals. So I've always been able to at least be in the church, and that has helped me. And otherwise, I've seen a lot of videos and recordings on the internet, and it's been nice. It's not the same as going to a church, but yeah.
For me, that's also been a part of like what's carried me through, is like, even if I'm doing something hard, or if I'm the first at something, that whatever roadblocks come up for me feel less scary, because my faith has always been pretty solid too. I've always kind of had this, it's beyond faith. I feel like it's an irrational, like, God's my thing, let's do this, right?
Yeah.
And so even in moments where people be like, are you sure you should do that? I've always been like, yeah, let's go, like, let's get this done. And so I see a little bit of that spark in you as well, which makes me like feel very excited for your ministry life, because I feel like in every ministry life there are people who put up roadblocks for things, but I feel like you're so grounded in just that certainty that like God exists and that you can be a helper for God, that even if the roadblocks happen, I can see you navigating more things than other people might if they were also having to carry like a crisis of faith at the same time.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I won't say that I'm sure God exists, but because that's why we believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm at least sure in my faith. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful thing to be able to like say out loud, is so often because the people who reach out are the people who are struggling in a moment in their life, or struggling into something that not everyone has met trans people who are like, not only am I faithful, like I'm solid, like I'm rooted, and I got this, and I can be your leader. And so I think that's just such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I agree. We need more people like us.
Yeah, we're great.
And we are.
Well, I think you've made me blush about 3 times in this conversation already too. It's because it's the Mutual Admiration Society, right? Really, like
Yeah.
I have such affinity and affection for the calling that you so clearly have, and I think it's a mutual thing. So
Definitely. I actually quoted you in my exam.
oh boy.
Yeah,
Well,
in my reflection, I quoted the video I always share with people if they're like, "Who's Megan Rohrer?" And I put the Cosmopolitan, which is pretty old, but it's a good clip. And then you say that we have to be louder
oh yeah.
than the people who prevent, or that says that God can't love some people.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, it was better in my exam paper, but I quoted you on that because
you not only had to quote me back to me, you had to do it in a language that was not your first language, right? So you get all the props for that. Yeah.
Yeah, because my teachers has been asking me this semester if like, how will you like melt together your identity as an activist and your identity as a pastor? I'm like, well, just look at this person who does it already, you know?
Yeah, here we go. We're doing this new thing. And it's kind of an old thing. I feel like Luther did so much of the same stuff. I don't know if I told you this, but when the Cosmo video came out, I had gone to the Wittenberg church where Luther had put up the 95 Theses. I came back to my hotel room and I had like 1,000 messages. And it was because Cosmo had posted this video. And so I kind of had this moment of like, oh, like I'm the best Lutheran ever because I went to the Theses and I came back and this new like social media is now what like the printing press was then. And so I had this real like connection to Martin Luther and feeling like, oh yeah, he was like doing all of these things too. And so I think the like boldness of trying to figure out how to embody faith in a new way in the midst of a plague, right? And when some people are so mad at you about how you're doing church that you have to go pretend you're a knight off in a tower, right?
Yeah.
There's like so many pieces of that story that I think are so resonant with what trans people are up to that it gives me support anyway, to feel like, yes, on one hand, we're inventing a new thing we're doing, but on the other hand, we're really in a deep cloud of witnesses who are kind of like carrying us together.
Yeah, I agree. And every person who has ever done something for the first time. So I kind of see myself just the same as, as like the first female pastor in Norway, or as the first open gay pastor in Norway. Like, I might be doing that something for the first time, but I'm not the only one who has done. Yeah. Well, actually, we're 2 openly transgender people in my class, so I'm kind of hoping to be first.
I'll root for you. If there's a way I can help you get extra credit, so you just sneak ahead just a little bit.
I'm already a semester in the lead.
Oh, so perfect. Yeah, so you're on the road. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of messages from people, particularly since the Queer Eye video, where people feel like they're alone, that there aren't very many people who are openly trans and who are really publicly faithful. And maybe it's just that there's a lot of, well, this is my theory, is that there's a lot of faithful trans people. They just don't get a lot of publicity, or they don't get a lot of limelight. That there's more newspapers to be sold talking about a tragic trans story than lifting up trans heroes. And so I feel a little bit like my hands are getting sore from answering all the messages. So if you could have a message for folk, particularly those who feel like alone and isolated, what would you want to share with them?
I think I would share that I hope they do reach out, if it's to me or to you or to whoever. Even though you have to answer more of these messages and get more sore, but
Yeah, start contacting Alex.
Yeah, do that. Just do. I'm fine with that, in English or Norwegian. That's I can do both almost. Because I think it's really important. Or if they don't want to reach out, just share on their own social media or on some where they can be anonymous, or if they want to get help by whoever, just because, especially in these times, I don't know, we do that in Norway, we say these times, you don't have to go to a shrink now or later, but if you need someone to talk to now, just give them a call. At least in Norway we can have phone like hours with our therapist.
I like the idea that people could do what you do and help those who love them have time for them, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there anything that would be helpful if people from the outside advocated for trans folk who are in Norway? Like it's hard to do that in some ways, but sometimes when someone else carries the message, it's a little easier than having to carry it yourself.
Yeah. I don't. We are. No, we are. I feel like, of course, we have some ways to go in Norway on a lot of things, and especially in healthcare ways. But I always not feel bad, but I always feel like we in Norway are pretty much better off than a lot of other people. And even though we might need something to get us along or something to just build morale, sometimes we are still so far ahead that I think we are actually the ones who should be advocating a lot of other countries.
I'm in. We'll have our coalition of trans Lutheran pastors kind of all over the place who are bringing in a reign of justice. Well, I'm beyond delighted that we got to check in with each other. I'm beyond delighted that you were willing to have our conversation be a public one so that other people could kind of know that there are maybe more people beyond their imagining, more people who are faithful and more people who are trans beyond their imagining. And I know that I pray for you regularly, and so I'll keep doing that.
I do the same, actually. So that's nice to hear. Yeah.
I
pray for myself. That was what. No, just kidding. Well, I do, but I pray more for you as well.
All right. Thank you. How do you say goodbye and thank you in Norwegian? That's how we should end this.
That's how we should end this. Tusen takk. That's thank you. And ha det bra. It's goodbye.